Respected Governor and elder brothers, sisters, and younger brothers, sisters. I always talking, when I give talk, I always consider we are same human being. I always feel when we think others, just human being, like myself, then immediately we can contact on human level. I think our friendship really based on human level, not some other different position. So now indeed, I feel great honor to receive this award. The organization or person is who give me this honor. They themselves totally dedicated serving other people. And I think try to fulfill your own mother's wish. So wonderful. So I really appreciate. And also I appreciate this hat. I feel I am one farmer's boy from northeast Tibet. Now, this short moment, I become farmer of Gujurat. So farmer, I really feel most important part of community. Industry, people who are working in industry, these are, of course, very important, particularly in the sense of modernization. These are very, very important. But ultimately, we all need food. So people who produce food, farmer. And I often, expressing many places, and here in India also, particularly India and China, real transformation of these two countries, now for example, now here, India, real transformation must start in rural area, in farmers' land. Few big cities, so much developed. That not consider real sort of development of India. Basically, India is farmland, agriculture. And then look, every big city, slums, poor people. And Dharamsala also, many of city, because of laborers, to come from land, because they are conditioned very poor. So there is no other choice except some labor constructing work. That's the way to earn. And look on their face and their hand. Same human being. Just I saw one picture. Just look at it. No. And if you have, show. Oh, yes, some. Okay. This is page quantity. But page can do it. No page. But the section, education is the key towards new and a better world. Here one picture. Have you seen? This one. One lady. When I saw this, I looked, almost tear come. Very sad. And the worst thing, some people, when you see these things, and when you're passing through street, slums, or children, homeless children, begging, many people passing through indifferent way. No message.
Neglected.
So they almost say, I saw one occasion in Delhi. My car stopped. Then one girl, or not truly, I think girl, some young female, with that stick, very difficult, and crossing the road. There are many other people. No one pay attention about that. That weak body, the lady. Till such mental attitude remain, the problem always remains. That's why I always say emphasis, sameness of human being. Religion secondary, just more or less private business. That's a human being. And the society, now developing, more prosperity. And these poor people still remain poor. I think if you believe God, in the eyes of God, such attitude is, I think, not proper way to proper way to serve God. Serve poor people. That's the real way serving God. And the best form of prayer or worship God, serving poor people. That's really very, very important. So, as a human being, and perhaps with this, as a farmer of Gujurat, I really appeal to you, please think more, and whatever way, helping rural area. And national viewpoint also, the rural area develop mainly through education. Just education, not sufficient or effective. Just say, oh, education is important. We must create facility, schools, and you see I often telling, like Bombay or Delhi, the farm countryside, rural area, built school and a college, eventually university, and then Parka building. Like Japanese farmers and the Taiwanese farmers, they are working as a farmer. But good house and few cars and trucks, all educated. I think India should become like that. And then already you see facing not only India, in many places, the overcrowd, big cities. In rural area, become comfortable, proper sort of sufficient way for earning there. Then the population more or less distributed like that. And then each farmer, 1 or 2 or 3 cars. And then farm area still open. So no need, you see, too much because of breach or what you call. Now in Delhi, in some other places, in Japan, in Tokyo, I think, of course, their whole country as an island. So you see there are 4, 5, 6 like that. I think if the situation or the pattern still continue, then I think need 10, 15, maybe 100. Impossible. So the rural area, see, people satisfy education, health, and also beside farm, you see, some kind of small-scale industries, these things. Then I think the problem in big cities also is reduced. This I feel. Of course, I'm not a specialist. At the present sort of India's economy, some of my friends, they are telling me the present sort of situation of the economy system not sustainable. So therefore, I think people, now here I think the rich families, I think rich people, think, not just your day-to-day life, and think, whole century, 21st century, and should take responsibility, well-being of millions of India's poor people, and then including caste system, and some discrimination, man, female. These, I think you should look these things more seriously. Should not take for granted these are our tradition. They're a source of failure. You should pay more attention about the negativeness and make effort to make a correction. So that's, I think, very, very important. So firstly, I think please pay more attention, and you have some money, so spend more money in rural area. And then the farm system, too much use fertilizer. Long run, now in America or many places, organic. The people usually, you see, prefer to buy that. So then, it's not good just for richer people, you see, prefer, you see, what's the, this
chemical fertilizers.
Organic. In Tibetan settlement, you see some area, you see people, you see not using chemical fertilizer. So actually, It's because of transportation. Otherwise, you see, they told me they have higher prices selling those
Organic vegetables.
organic sort of food. So therefore, you see, the farmers can increase their price and take more money from richer family. Okay. So therefore, you see, I think I'm not expert, but I really feel. You see, when I saw, you see, these people are here also, yesterday and today, and passing through some slum. And this morning, on the very center, middle of the street, one person just sleeping. Same human being, same right. If you believe God, God creates same right to all human beings. And from the Buddhist viewpoint, all sentient beings. Therefore, these things just I want to express. And then my own commitment, number one, as a human being, is to think about 7 billion human beings. I'm part of that. So every human being has this moral responsibility to think about humanity. I think humanity's problem, I think, will increase because of population increase. End of this century, human population reached 10 billions. And then global warming also increasing. So there are a lot of problems. We have to think seriously. If these global warming, nature disaster increase, so we have to prepare. We have to think. When these nature disasters happen, most casualty, poor people. Because they cannot do much. Poor. Like that. So therefore, you see, we have to think very seriously. That's number one. And then also modern society, I think very much materialistic culture, materialistic life. As a result, something missing here. So, too much stress, worry, loneliness. So that's the only thing about material value, and completely neglect about inner value. Then life will not be happy life. Always anxiety, too much stress, and jealousy, and frustration. Warm-heartedness here. And consider others as human brothers, sisters. Then the tension, distrust, fear automatically reduce. Result, person or family be much more happier. So I always is telling, the very existing education system mostly is oriented about material value, not sufficient about inner value, not sufficient stress, pay attention about inner value. Then, so here, your own tradition, secular ethics, is very, very sort of relevant to today's world. Out of 7 billion, 1 billion non-believer. And also among the believers, lot of corruptions there. All these showing lack of moral principle. So if you try to promote moral principle through religious way, it will not be universal, only secular way. That's what I always tell you. Then second, I'm Buddhist. On that level, my commitment is promotion of religious harmony. I never try to propagate Buddhism. I always respect, I always telling all major religious tradition, in spite of different philosophical views, different views, right? Some philosophical views are actually fundamental differences. We Buddhists and Jains, and also one part of Sankhya philosophy, no concept of creator, rather self-creation. So major other religious tradition, their fundamental faith is concept of creator. Isn't both wonderful? Very effective to some people. It's a concept of self-creation is very effective. To some people, you see, concept of creator is very, very effective. So that's up to individual. So in any way, you see, in spite of different philosophical views, all carry the same message of love. Because you see, they consider practice of love is so important. So they also, all these major religious traditions, also you see, teach us simplicity, contentment, tolerance, forgiveness. All this shows these religious traditions, different religious traditions, all emphasis importance of love, practice of love, affection, which we obviously must experience when we were young. Loving kindness or affection from our mother. So now, on the terms of, I think, because of the broader way, mother's affection is actually oriented about others' attitude. Mother's affection mainly towards her own children or her own relatives. That affection is not sufficient. When we talk about humanity, including your enemy, we have to expand our loving kindness or affection without boundary. Usually our affection towards only our friends, not towards enemy. That is biased. That's not that very much mixed with attachment. Attachment always brings hatred, anger. So loving kindness without attachment, that we need. That not spontaneously come, but through training, through awareness, that can be done. So all major religious traditions, when they carry the message of love, is unbiased, infinite love, like that. So that we can promote through education. Unlike in the past human history, now education, very good. Now education, including education about warm-heartedness, on the basis of scientific finding and our common experience and common sense, we can promote through awareness, through education. So therefore, so religious harmony is very possible. This country, I think 1,000 years, religious harmony already there. Now this really India's treasure. You must remind this. The young people say too much attention about material value and eventually neglect or forget the century-old India's treasure. So that's something very important. So sometimes I was telling when some sort of gathering with the spiritual leaders, and also usually you see when I give talk in this country, I often is telling, I'm messenger of ancient Indian knowledge or Indian thought. On the level of messenger, I'm quite active. So now you are my boss. So messenger quite active. So boss must be active. It's not time. You just satisfy some beautiful material value. Then say that. Wrong. You must pay more attention and propagate. And this secular education, secular ethics must propagate. No boundary, including religious believer. So therefore, you see, that's really right. Religion propagate, the other side also propagate, this side also propagate, then eventually clash. When we firmly, fully committed harmony among different religious traditions, then propagating. I think Buddha himself, you see, told, express, unless someone approach to you and ask some teaching, you should not teach. So that's very wise. And then also, since Governor mentioned about Buddha. So one Buddha's, I think, very unique sort of teaching was Buddha stated, "O my follower, bhikshus, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. Once through investigation or analyze and the test, you feel real something because of the effect. Then you accept." I think Buddha's quite a unique sort of teaching. He gives us freedom to check Buddha's own word. So, like Nagarjuna, those Nalendra masters, there's even some Buddha's own word, they reject. Because if you accept this concept as Buddha stated in certain text, then it goes contradictory with reasons. So then they reject. So I'm a follower of Nagarjuna. I'm a student of Nalendra tradition. So I took the liberty to reject some Buddhist sort of concept, some sort of ancient Buddhist concept, such as the world flat in the center, Mount Meru, and sun and moon, same level, go around Mount Meru. That's totally against the scientific finding. So I took the liberty, I particularly when I give talk, the monastic institution, I think among a student and scholar, few thousand, I always openly that I no longer believe that. And also I mentioned, I hope still I'm Buddhist. So therefore, like concept of true truth, concept of Four Noble Truth, all these we can prove by a scientific way, like quantum physics, like that. So these are very validated way. Some sort of our belief is no longer acceptable. It is Nalendra tradition. We have liberty to examine. So that's, I think, something quite unique about Buddhism. So therefore, sometimes I describe Buddha also can be scientist, not only a spiritual leader, but also scientist. He emphasizes research, and test, experiment. This is not trying to propagate Buddhism, just simply since Governor mentioned much about Buddha. So I'm Buddhist, so I think it is my duty to speak something. Like that. So that's my second commitment. Now, third commitment, I'm Tibetan. So see, I always telling, we Tibetan, since 7th century, 8th century, we become your chela. Indians, our guru. We are your student. So sometimes I have jokes. We are not only just ordinary chela, but quite reliable chela. The reason, when our guru's own land, as far as the Nalanda tradition is concerned, too much ups and downs. During this period, over 1,000 years, we kept intactly. So that shows we are quite reliable chela. Isn't it? So therefore, our relation, India and Tibet, is something, relation between teacher and student, guru and chela. And this relation very much related with human sort of emotions or psychology. And then, you see, Tibetan, I usually make distinction. Buddhism and Buddhist culture. Buddhism is individual business. In Tibet, I think a few thousand Muslims there. They are Muslim. But their way of life very much in the spirit of Buddhist culture. So therefore, as far as Buddhist culture is concerned, whole Tibetan follow or have the sort of habit Buddhist culture. So that culture is culture of non-violence, culture of compassion, culture of peace. So that kind of culture is really worthwhile. And then as far as Buddhism is concerned, translation from Indian sources, about I think 10 books from Chinese sources. Otherwise, over 300 volumes, all are translated from India. So some of these now texts not available in India, the original Sanskrit text. But we, since 8th century, all these major texts are today also translated into Tibetan. And also the translation is perfect. Many scholars from the West, they found the Tibetan translation is very, very correct, very accurate and best translation. So I also found, when we discuss with some Chinese Buddhist scholar or Japanese Buddhist scholar, so on, and Buddhist scholars from Thailand or Burma, Sri Lanka, then it becomes clear. Our knowledge, true tradition of Nalanda tradition, and our knowledge seems to say very, very deep, right? So all these to use our own language, our own script. So therefore, I really feel it is really worthwhile to preserve Tibetan Buddhism and Buddhist culture. So now China, People's Republic of China, around 400 million Buddhists, many of them showing or following Tibetan Buddhism. So the preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan Buddhist culture, and also preservation of Tibetan rich Buddhist tradition, not only for 6 million, not only concerned for 6 million Tibetan, but larger people in that part of the world. And then also the environment. Some, Chinese ecologists, say the affection from Tibetan plateau to global warming as much as South Pole and North Pole. Therefore, these experts described Tibet Tibetan plateau is third pole. So, ecology, global warming is concerned, Tibet also something very important. Now India, I think the Gujurat, I think not much of effect if Tibetan become dry or something. But the whole northern India, and also including China and Pakistan, you see the major rivers which basis of, I think, over a billion human beings' life, ultimately come from Tibetan plateau. So therefore, Tibetan ecology, something delicate, something important. Now many Chinese now really showing their concern, as well as many Indians like that. So these are, political side, I already retired. I would like to make a little correction. The governor's speech and some other also, mentioned Prime Minister of Exile Government of Tibet. This is not correct. You see, the very day I handed over all my authority, temporal authority, to hand it over to elected political leadership. Yeah, I mentioned, since quite the big number, or I don't know how to say, about 150,000 Tibetans, about 100,000 in India, another several thousand in some other countries, some of the European countries, the United States, Canada, Australia, like that. So we are a refugee. So there must be some central administration who look after them economically, particularly education. Since 1960, Pandit Nehru, governor of India, immensely helpful for education and our settlement. And then also, we also have the responsibility to preservation about knowledge, land knowledge. Over 1,000 years we kept. Now we must, make effort to preserve using this knowledge. So we need some kind of central administration. So we usually call leader of the central administration, not exile government. There is political sensitivity there. The Chinese government always accuse us, we are splittist, or try to separate from China. So this is not. Since 1974, China, full swing of Cultural Revolution. In Dharamsala, we thoroughly discuss, and also, we remember Pandit Nehru's advice and many supporters' advice. Accordingly, then, and also our experience, we appealed United Nations. Then finally, 1974, we decided we are not seeking independence, we are not seeking separation from China for mutual benefit. And also, we have to find ways and means to solve this problem, mutually equitable solution. Otherwise, it cannot solve. So that, if may I say so, a little correction. Like that. So, thank you. That is also useful. Yeah. So, Governor got red. I got white. So, actually, monk should have red one, lay people white. But the judging the color of the dress, red color, white hat, very suitable, very fit. And governor, white color and red, this, very suitable. Thank you very much. I very appreciate the money How much, I don't know. But in any way, you see, as someone mentioned, I'm a simple Buddhist monk. I think, longest guest of Indian government. So all the arrangement, you see, expenses were made by government of India. So, no need any money. So therefore, whatever I received money, some offering, Tibetan and some other sort of people, now including this check, I also put my sort of one trust, mainly this is spent for education and some other humanitarian work. So nowadays, you see, we received, my sort of trust received more requests. I think they felt, Dalai Lama trust quite rich. So therefore, more and more requests come. So I appreciate your donation. Thank you very much.